overview of yearly settlement in Murabaha and Tawarruk contracts serve as an interest-free alternative promoting transparency in Islamic finance. This case examined the issue of full versus partial ibrah on unearned profit and its impact on the involved stakeholder. Compliance with Bank Negara Malaysia standard is crucial that are aligned with fiqh maxim to prevent injustice and ensure fairness in profit calculation. Key Sharia principles guide transparency and proper recognition of deferred profit during yearly settlements. Our analysis shows that banks may grant IBRA, but only based on clearly Sharia compliant criteria. To improve the process, banks should adopt transparent standard operating procedure and strengthen accountability through regular updates and staff training. This step ensures the integrity of Islamic finance and reduces the risk of disputes.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Safitrani. I will present our case study based on the case we have chosen, which is case A, which focuses on Murabaha retail financing, early settlement and IBRA. Let us begin with the case facts. This financing involves a Murabaha contract, where the total financing is value 100,000, consisting of 70,000 as the cash price and 30,000 as the bank's profit margin. Originally, the financing tenure was set for 6 years. However, after 4 years, the customer requested to settle the balance early. The customer is requesting a full IBRA or rebate on the remaining unearned profit margin. However, based on the bank's policy, they only offer partial IBRA calculated proportionally based on the time that has been passed. In this case, the customer is only offered half of the rebate. There are 4 main stakeholders in this case. First, the customer, who acts as the buyer in the contract, aims for early settlement and hopes to receive a full IBRA or rebate on the unearned profit. Second, Bank Islam X is the seller. Their objective is to gain profit from the financing while ensuring Sharia compliance. Third, the Sharia Board serves as the Sharia guardian. They ensure all transactions follow Islamic principles and are fair to both parties. Lastly, Bank Negara Malaysia and AAO-IFI act as regulators and standard setters. Their role is to set guidelines and ensure the rules around IBRA and Islamic financing are applied correctly.
Assalamualaikum. I will present the Sharia issue and risk identified in case A. First, we look at the issue of deferred price under the maxim Lil Ajali Kistu Min Al-Tamam. In this contract, the profit is tied to the 6-year deferment. So when the customer settles early and requests full IBRA, it may contradict the agreed sale price. Full rebate could imply inflated pricing, while partial rebate might seem unfair. Second, the maxim Al-Darar Yuzal highlight potential harm. The customer faces harm by paying profit for a period he no longer uses, while the bank faces financial harm if full IBRA becomes a standard expectation. Third, the maxim Al-Mashaqqah Tajlibu At-Taithir remind us that hardship should be eased. The customer's burden should be considered, but offering full rebate in all situations may create operational hardship for the bank. Fourth, there is a compliance risk with AAOIFI and BNM. Regulators expect fair and transparent practice, including proper treatment and unearned profit. A partial IBRA policies without justification may affect the bank's Sharia governance and reputation. Fifth, there is a risk that the product may mimicking a conventional loan if the bank collects nearly all profit despite early settlement. This threatens the integrity and public perception of Islamic finance. Finally, the contractual clarity and transparency is crucial. If the IBRA policies was not clearly disclosed at the beginning, it can lead to uncertainty, disputes, and loss of customers' trust. Poor transparency also weakened the bank's long-term credibility.
Okay, next I want to present about application of maxim. Okay, for my first maxim is Lil Ajali Kistu Mina Al-Taman, which is stand for deferment is part of the price. This maxim states that the selling price in a Murabaha contract
includes the value of the deferment period. So means that the profit is directly tied to agreed tenure. So once the customer settled the financing earlier than the original agreement, the remaining deferment period no longer exists and therefore cannot be priced. So because of the bank did not earn the profit for the unutilized period, it must return the unearned portion to ensure the selling price reflects the actual duration of benefit achieved by the customer. So applying this maxim confirms that the bank is obligated to grant IBRA on unearned profit to maintain fairness and Sharia compliance. Second is al-dara yuzal, which is stand for harm must be eliminated. So this maxim requires that any form of harm, injustice, or imbalance in financial transaction must be removed. So retaining profit for a period during which the customer no longer use the financing creates financial harms and violates the principle of fairness. So to eliminate the harms, the bank must exclude any profit that was not legitimately earned and only retain the profit corresponding to the actual financial period. So this ensures that both parties are treated justly and that the settlement follows the ethical standard established by Bank Negara Malaysia. And last is al-mashaqah tajlibu al-taysir, which is stand for hardship biggest aids. So this maxim emphasize that processes should be simplified when hardship or difficulty exists, especially in financial transaction. Early settlement often occurs due to financial constraints or change in the customer circumstance, so the bank must avoid imposing complicated or burdensome procedures. So to align with this maxim, the bank should provide clear standard operating procedures, transparent by system-generated calculation, and straightforward communication regarding the settlement. So implementing this principle ensures that the early settlement process remain easy, fair, and consistent with Sharia objective of facilitating convenience for customer. So that applying all the three maxims together ensure that the early settlement process remain fair, transparent, and fully compliant with Sharia principle.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Umar Imam Fatina binti Muhammad Hasni. My matrix number is A23A2269. Today, I will present the Sharia decision regarding early settlement in Murabahah financing and the requirement that to create IBRA. The main issue is that when a customer settles the financing early than the maturity date, they normally request a full rebate on the different profit. However, some banks only provide partial IBRA based on internal policies. According to Bank Negara Malaysia, Islamic financial institution must provide IBRA based on the remaining financing period that has not yet occurred. This makes IBRA a mandatory requirement. Next, there are three Sharia principles that support the ruling. First, the principle that ajali kistum min al-atama state that different profit only becomes the bank's right when the actual time period occur. Profit for future period is not valid ownership, so it must be rebate. Second, the principle ad-dara user means all harm must be removed, keeping net profit cause injustice and financial harm to customers. Third, the principle al-mashaqah tajlib al-taysir means hardship bring ease. Early settlement accompanied by full profit chance create unnecessary burden, and Sharia requires removing this burden. So agreed that because the customer agreed to the sale price, the bank can keep all the profit. However, the Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institution (AAO-IFI) clearly state that profit which has not yet been earned is not the property of the bank. Other agreed is claim the bank policy permit only pressure IBRA, but Bank Negara Malaysia IBRA policy document confirm that internal policy cannot override Sharia requirement. Another profit must be fully rebate. In conclusion, bank must give full IBRA on unearned profit to ensure fairness, prevent harm, and comply with Sharia principle and national regulatory standard. This protect both practice and maintain justice in Islamic financing.
The next part is remedial action and policy control. First, formal IBRA governance framework is create a systematic framework for organized IBRA governance. 2. Automation of system and transparency of data. There is a create transparent, immutable record by incorporation Sharia. The 3 is standardizes application process to assess rebate eligibility and guarantee process uniformity. The 4 is detail, SOPs and control. Is a 4 strong internal control, implement yearly statement, IBRA SOPs. The 5 is transparency and customer disclosure to improve client transparency. Provide a settlement disclosure sheet that details is the principal profit component and the final rebate. The last is supervision and responsibility to improve accountability and guarantee continual compliance. Use conception, reporting, then tracking and current Sharia audits.
Next, for reflection of this assignment, we highlight several limitations in our analysis. Number 1, some part of the analysis were based on general assumptions about bank practices, documentation style, and system configuration. Number 2, the finding cannot be fully generalized because different Islamic banks may follow different processes. Number 3, our discussion relied mainly on Malaysian regulatory standards such as SAC, BNM, and AAOIFI. Number 4, we did not have access to real operational samples like actual contract extract or system outputs. And lastly, some explanations were based on expected industry practices instead of verified evidence. Next, there are also residual risks that remain even after the proposed control. First, there is a risk of miscalculating earned and unearned profit due to system or input errors. Second, there may be inconsistent implementation of SOP or different level of staff understanding. Third, customer may misunderstand their IBRA entitlement due to unclear disclosure or contract wording. Fourth, weak governance, infrequent audit, or poor monitoring can lead to unearned profit being unintentionally retained. And finally, there is a reputational risk if customers view the IBRA practice as unclear or unfair compared to market norm. Overall, these limitations and risks show the importance of strong governance, clear communication, and accurate system processes to ensure fairness in early settlement cases.